Hello. So first of all, Ramadan Mubarak, and it's a very important greeting today because of the disturbing news that's coming out of Israel of attacks on the Palestinians in the on the Temple Mount, on the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex. Now, the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex, it goes back to 705 to 780 when it was built. It was then destroyed by an earthquake and rebuilt in about 1033 or something, and then it was taken over by the Templars, turned into a church, and then again restored with a lot of help from the Ottomans. It's just beyond the Dome of the Rock. That's the very large dome that you see in all the pictures of Jerusalem. And then along the side of the wall of the old temple is the one wall of the temple that's left, the Wailing Wall, sacred to Judaism. And the temple itself. The temple was built in 586, the temple was destroyed in 586 BC by Nebuchadnezzar, and then 70 years later, the second temple was rebuilt, and then Herod's temple was finally destroyed in 70 AD. So we can see that the Temple Mount is sacred to Judaism and Islam. It's also sacred to Christianity. It's the place that Jesus visited on a number of occasions, documented in the Gospels. There was some theory at one point that there was a church built by the Emperor Justinian, dedicated to the Virgin Mary, the Theotokos. But in fact, we've now found that church located elsewhere. So this is a site which is sacred to three world religions. And what do we find? We find that during the holiest month of Islam, the Israelis are attacking Palestinians. Now, the Palestinians, you have to put this in a certain amount of context. The Palestinians regard themselves in that particular area as invaded. This is their territory, which was then reclaimed by the Israeli government during the last century. So what you've got here are Palestinians who are staging sit-ins, who are then being tear-gassed, and they're doing so, there's quite astonishing attacks in the district of Sheikh Jarrah and another neighbourhood. There's also attacks at the Damascus Gate. And this whole thing erupted last night with Israeli soldiers not simply going onto the Al-Aqsa Mosque territory, onto that platform over the old Temple Mount, but actually entering the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And there's footage of this if you go over to sites like Al Jazeera. Very, very worrying to see soldiers attacking people engaged in prayer. And more than that, on a Friday night. So this is the night of the Jewish Sabbath. Now, why is this so important to us? Two things. Number one, the West has been astonishingly silent about condemning this chaos, this disorder. The only one of our leaders who said anything about it is Nicola Sturgeon. So Boris hasn't said anything so far. The US government has called for peace. The Ayatollah in Iran has called for more chaos. Dubai and Saudi Arabia have deplored the violence. Condemning violence is the first thing we should be doing. Islam is a religion of peace. The Jewish Sabbath, the greeting on the Jewish Sabbath is Shabbat Shalom, the peace of the Sabbath. This is not a very peaceful demonstration. Now, on Monday, there's a festival in Israel called Jerusalem Day. But Monday also happens to be the holiest day of Ramadan, Laylat ul Qadr. I think we've already seen on the last Friday of Ramadan, the celebrations descend into violence and chaos and shocking tactics by the Israeli troops. And we have to make sure that it doesn't get any worse. So we have to stand together and demand dialogue, demand peace, and condemn in the strongest possible way this violence. And in case you're in any doubt about what this violence was, it's the Israeli troops were firing rubber bullets. Well, this doesn't sound that bad until you realise a rubber bullet is a rubber casing over a metal bullet. It does significant harm. There are lots of people who've been injured with serious eye problems, blindness, and the figures of people being injured, if you look at the BBC, it's about 168. If you look elsewhere, it's over 200, 205, and mounting. And it's not just the rubber bullets. Stun grenades have been thrown into the mosque and also into the field hospital set up to treat the wounded. There have been calls for peace. There have been calls for the soldiers to retreat, to pull back. There have been calls for the youth to quieten down from the mosque complex itself. And all of this is ignored in the interests of stirring up this violence. And, you know, so we've got, to go back to the religious significance, why is the Temple Mount so significant to Islam? Because it's from the Temple Mount that the Prophet Muhammad ascended to the heavens in the night journey. So, particularly to Sunni Muslims, this is the third most important site in Islam. It's also, you know, one of the most important sites in Christianity. It's also the most important site in Judaism. One should be mindful of the religious significance of the Temple Mount. This is a flashpoint, and Western leaders, in fact all political leaders, should be calling out for this situation to be resolved as quickly as possible and peace to be returned, particularly during this month. So there we are.